Well, we are live and away for this virtual workshop this afternoon. So it's great to have you on board. And welcome to the first of these sessions that we're running for 2025. An incredible start to the year it has been as well. So, welcome along. My name's John Mailer. I'll be your host this afternoon, and we've got some behind the scenes support with our general manager Gargi as well, who I'll introduce in a little while. But we've got a great topic to kick off to today, and I'll just get my slides up so we can sort of get things underway. Um, and profit-driven pricing. So, it's a topic that we could spend probably 3 or 4 days on, and working with clients around this particular topic, we definitely deep dive. So the intention today is just to give you some things to consider. And again, if you'd like some more support around this, particularly if it's something that you've had challenges with or struggled with in the past, we'd love to be able to connect with you as well. So let me give you a road ahead. Yeah. We've got about 45, 50 minutes together today. And what we've got happening. So we're going to cover off on, firstly, what do we see regularly at Pro Trades United around the mistakes that businesses are making when pricing work. We're going to look at the single biggest barrier to what's continually showing up. What blocks do you have in place to stop you actually charging what you're worth? And what gross profit percentage your business needs to generate, and how to generate your own pricing targets. A little rule that works really well, simple. It's called our 2x2x2 rule. Everyone who's on board today will get a checklist around making sure you accurately price for profit as well. And we'll explain how you can get access to that through the session as well. And an invitation to get some personalized support around your pricing after this session as well. So, as I mentioned before, we have a pricing for profit checklist that we'd love to give all of the people on board as well. And just to let you know, we've got a great book out called Not Just a Tradie that we launched last year, and the intention to share with business owners and their teams some great little strategies, because the reality is you have a business, but you're not your business. And how you can show up and be the best version of yourself as a business leader to then influence your business as well. So that's also available through our website and through the team as we go. So let's just check in today. So first and foremost, we've got an opportunity to make this not just a monologue, but a dialogue and a conversation. And I'd love to welcome you, my co-pilot for this afternoon, Gargi. Um, Hello, buddy, and thank you
Hi.
for being here to support me on the session. And
Yeah, welcome.
Gargi's going to be working in the back end to help facilitate any questions or comments that do come through. Excuse me. So, what I'd love you guys to do, if you can see me and Gargi and you can hear us clearly, yeah, just raise your hand or type into the box where you're from, where are you located, what business do you have? Just be really specific. Maybe it's electrical, plumbing, HVAC, could be residential construction, maybe painting, plastering, tiling, garage doors, landscaping, um, whatever's there, please type into the box as well. And as we go through today, one of the things that's really important is to reinforce what you're learning. What I'd love you to do is type into the chat box what you're actually experiencing, maybe what you're relating to. Let's be honest around this, because sometimes, honesty is the best policy. And what I mean by that is sharing our whole truth. So when I talk about some of the mistakes, maybe you can go, yeah, I can totally relate to that. That one cost me X amount over the last few years. And to let you know, if you find some value in what we're talking about today and you want to review it or share it with some people in your community, maybe that's your team, you will receive a recording. And we've also got a pricing for profit checklist that we'll be sharing with you as well. So I can see who we got in our chat box at the moment. Here we go. Listen, Hayden, g'day, Hayden Hunter as well. Joel, Bruce, We've got Blake. G'day, Blake George. Stonius. G'day, Kyle. G'day, Craig. Lovely to have you all on board. Simon there. Andrew Robertson. Beautiful. Kaylee. Gavin. Peter. Ian. Lynn. Luke. Bert. Casey. Beautiful. Daniel there as well. So please keep tapping away through the chat box. Let us know that there's some content coming away that you're valuable as well. And Gagi, feel free at any stage. Sometimes I'll get into the zone and recognise there might have been a question asked or something that could be worth addressing as we go through. So I'm going to rely on you, if that's all right, to just have me hit the pause button, and then we can connect and chat with everybody else as well. Is anything
Sure,
there that's come up so far that you find is worth sharing?
No, just thanks for the introduction, John, and thanks everyone. Thanks for allowing me to join the session as well and be a part of Connection today. Really looking forward to understanding more of what you're after in today's session and providing that support that we can with John's presentation this afternoon. Also, would love to add to that, we've got so many different types of businesses joining us, trades and construction all across Australia and New Zealand. So if there is something that you're querying within your industry that you wanted to ask, or you want to look at a connection, this is also a platform to connect as well. So some of the few comments that we've seen, John, there's a plethora of plumbers that have joined us, painters, and some of the great things I can see here is outcomes that people would love to get is, and I think Bruce put this in here, more profit to share with the team, which is really specific and really great to understand and learn. And I know, John, you'll probably hone in on some of those points that Bruce can kind of tap away at as well. So yeah, and maximizing profits while remaining competitive is another one that Ian's put in there. So yeah, some great outcomes that people want to achieve from today.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and please keep continuing. So let's jump in. Yeah, let's get into it, because we've got a fair bit on. I was looking at the slides that I put together through the day, and there's about 45 or 50 slides. So I recommended, I thought I had about like one a minute. So as I said, the recording will be valuable for you to share with your team as we go. So a little snapshot for those of you joining a session with Pro Trade United for the very first time. How we position ourselves, and we've been playing in this space now for nearly 10 years. We work with businesses across Australia and New Zealand, in the coaching, mentoring, advisory space. And the three reasons why a lot of clients come to start with it is, I just want some consistency of my income and my profit and my cash. If I can have some consistency, then I've got some choices. At the moment, it's really lumpy. Some of you may have come through a Christmas period where you're now getting to the end of February, and the payments haven't been coming in. You've had to follow up. There's a big cash flow hole. And if that's who you are, you're in a great place to sort of get started for the year. Maybe you want to grow. How do you add some systems and processes and structures and the right model to help you do that profitably? And for some of you, you might be thinking, well, maybe I want to sell this baby. What if there's an opportunity to actually sell and get a great return, or maybe sell some of it to the team or some investors, or maybe just step back and get a passive income from the business as well. So they're the key ways that we work with our clients. And if that's of interest to you, then maybe we could have a catch up at some stage. Some of the clients that we work with across Australia and New Zealand as well. So let's dive in. So interesting times, yeah? What's changed in the last 5 years? Like, February now, and I remember it was early April when this thing called COVID hit in 2020, and the world changed in a lot of ways. But what's really shown up through that time, and what can we learn from this, and what can we respond to? Because that's really the key. The external is taking place. How do we respond? And so what we're working with clients on is understanding that the people who buy from you have more access to digital information than ever before, whether that's product research, communication, understanding more about the products or services that you offer. And yes, depending on the business that you operate in, that can change. The buying behavior shifted. People now expect greater transparency. They expect the ability to communicate and connect virtually, almost instantly. Not necessarily with a bot on your website, yet, what we've really seen is the ability to have a Zoom call like this with a client who may live across town or maybe they're half an hour away, but to help them solve some problems has really come to the forefront. People expect personalization, they expect convenience. They want things happening quicker and they want to feel good in the process. It's not just now a bonus, it's expected. We've all experienced, I shouldn't say we, but many businesses have experienced supply chain holdups, increasing in pricing. The labour market now, there's less skills available. And, another topic we're working with clients on is helping to become employers of choice. There's less skilled workers available, but now it's costing a lot more. So if we take all of that in, the question is, well, how do I actually apply some of that information to stay profitable, to create a consistent and stable business moving forward? Well, we get to choose it. And one of the things that's really important is that some businesses won't. Some businesses won't shift. Some businesses are experiencing, a bit of extinction. And you get the choice around all of this. And we're here to work with you to help you make some smarter choices to ensure that your business is heading in that right direction. So let's dive in. Pricing. What is in this thing called pricing? So just to start off and give you some reference, is that we have a hamburger, 3 different hamburgers sitting in front of us. Now, the goal of a burger for a lot of people is to fill a vacancy in the stomach. I'm hungry, I want some food. There's differing levels of nutrition in front of us right here. So it may not necessarily be nutrients, but you just want to stop the hunger or you want to enjoy the experience. So on the left, we have the $5 Big Mac. Now, I do not remember the last time I dropped into McDonald's. Actually, I do. It was Christmas time for a coffee. The only option available. But a Big Mac, can't remember, but from what I understand, they're around $5. We then have in the middle, we have something called the Ferg Burger. Now, for those New Zealanders who are joining us, you would be well aware of the Ferg Burger from Queenstown. But the Ferg Burger is a bespoke, customized, built burger. And if you are going to Queenstown at any stage, do yourself a favour, go and experience what they are like. But more importantly, go and experience what it is that the business is doing to be able to charge $25 for a burger. And then on the right-hand side, we have the Fleur Burger from the Mandalay Bay Hotel Resort in Las Vegas that comes served as is with caviar, truffle mushrooms, and a bottle of beautiful red wine. And people are paying $5,000 for the burger. Now, remember, what's the intention of the burger? Well, it's to solve a problem, isn't it? But what we do know is people are prepared to pay different prices to solve that problem. Now, you might ask, well, who would pay $5,000 for a burger? Well, someone who can and someone who wants to. Now, they probably wouldn't need to sell a lot of them, but they are the most expensive. And, I've never spoken to anybody who's tasted them, but apparently they're pretty good. Well, you'd want to think so anyway. Now, what's the point of this slide? Well, you have to understand that pricing is a blend of lots of things. It's a blend of art, it's a blend of science, and it's a blend of psychology. And how do we take some of those key pieces and apply it to your business? Now, when we have a look at price perception, how does your business fit into this? If we talk the top left here, when you're high price or high price perception, but it's actually, a low price. So you give the perception that you're delivering a great product or service, but you charge a low price. People, they're a little bit, really? That seemed a little cheap. If it's low cost and a low perception, then people don't expect much. Now, if it's a low perception but a high price, maybe that, they don't think much, but all of a sudden they've got to pay. It's like, oh, this is a bit more than I thought. But what we want to have a look at is where we can position your business, where you give the perception, and that's a lot about your marketing and your sales process, that you deliver a great quality product and service and you price accordingly. Now, It's not about blowing, your prices out of the water and taking advantage of the customer, but you want to deliver at that top end. So let's dive into some of the mistakes. Let's get some tangibles for you. And as I said, these mistakes we see over and over and over and over. Now, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Yet, if you keep making them and you're not actually aware, then this is where the gaps are going to show up. So, number one, and we're not going to dive into that too deeply, but number one, what I'd love you to do is understand that people don't scope their projects out or their jobs out effectively. They miss vital information right up front. So that either means that they're not pricing it effectively. It means you've got to, keep adding to the job along the way. Maybe the customer expectations were a bit misaligned right up front. Yeah. Not knowing the true or the full cost to do the job. Now, what I mean by that is you maybe guesstimate the materials. You go out, you see a potential customer, and you give them a guesstimate. Oh, I guess it's going to cost this much materials, the labor, etc. Give them a roundabout price to see if you can get your foot in the door. Nothing wrong with that, yet not necessarily the most professional approach. Not allowing for waste or errors. How many times have you had to follow up with customers, go back to a job where you've got to do rework and take care of defects? But again, not allowing for that in your pricing. Maybe priced on estimated time versus how do I solve the problem? Now, more often than not, a lot of people are prepared to pay for you fixing the problem and doing it efficiently in a time efficient manner, making people feel good in the process. It's not necessarily the time. So, for example, I'll give you a very quick example. Now, I went to the dentist late last year, and I don't go to the dentist that often because I don't really enjoy it. I went in there and I did have to have a filling adjusted. There was a little crack and they wanted to fix it up. Now, the dentist gave me a fixed price and it was going to take about 15 minutes. Now, I looked at the price and I looked at the time and I'm going, wow, he gets $180 for a 15-minute job. Now, the thing about that is he's solving the problem and I want him to do it in the shortest period of time. I don't want to sit there for an hour. So when you price, if he said, well, I'm just going to charge you for the time, it's only 15 minutes and that's going to be $60. Well, I'd much rather know that he's going to do a great job. And I'm not really concerned about how long it takes, as long as it's done quickly and it solves the problem. Sometimes people are pricing their pricing based on what's the average of everybody else doing. And maybe I'll do a little bit lower, a little bit higher. Nothing wrong, but may not work. Few more. Pricing for markup versus margin, not really understanding the difference. And markup and margin are completely different. Not back costing, which means you're not actually going back through jobs. You're not actually going back through the van that's out on the road for a week and going, well, what did we want to make and how did we actually go? I'll talk about more in detail there. Confusion around the value with a customer. Customer expects this, gets that, or it could be the other way around. Yeah, so there's a connection and communication challenge. Discounting to win work. I want to show you a slide later on that will show you really the ramifications of discounting in your business and how much extra work you need to do to actually make the same amount of profit. Or you don't charge effectively for variations. Some of you on this call might be guilty of going back over, fixing up things, doing extra for the customer, not charging. Again, nothing wrong with that. Yet think about what that is actually costing your business as well. And that's just the start. Yeah. So there's 10 around there. Now, one of the things that I'd love is if you can relate to any of those, here's the thing. If you can relate to any of those, then pop your hand up, give us a wave. Maybe you want to type into the chat box what you feel has been a mistake that you've made. And, what you're going to get, guys, is that we're all in the same game. We've all made mistakes. We're all learning along the way. But when you make a mistake more than once, it's a choice. Remember that. You make it once, it's a mistake. You make it again and again, it becomes a choice along the way. Yeah. So I'm going to have my chat here as well. Beautiful. Thanks for chatting in there. Yeah. Thanks, Gagi. Yeah. Premium experience. Yeah. Lovely there. Great. All right. So let's go back to these slides. Now, the thing about that is, unfortunately, in the construction and trade industry, that there tends to be a lot of these. They're not necessarily sheep, but they're sheeple. You know, people are confusing themselves with sheep, because if everyone's doing this, well, maybe I should be doing that. Maybe everyone's doing that now. Maybe I should consider that. Well, maybe, maybe not. But can you make choices and decisions for you and your business independent of what everybody else is doing? And that's the key. Yeah. It's learning and understanding what's going to work for your business. So let's have a look. The biggest barrier. Let's dive straight into this. The biggest barrier that's preventing you from being profitable consistently in your business is not out there. It's not the economy. It's not other businesses. It's not the customer. You probably know exactly what I'm going to say. It's the person you see in the mirror every single day. It's the person sitting in the seat where you are right now. The biggest barrier is you. Yeah. Now, you have to own that if you want to change it. But if you're consistently blaming, pointing the finger, making excuses that are external to you, things will never change. And we can predict where your business is going to be. And the thing about barriers, part of it is that you don't know and you don't care. Now, what I mean by that is, when we work with clients, particularly around helping them understand their business financials and want them engaged and excited about them, you either don't know what the numbers are saying or how to price. And if you're allowing yourself to continue not knowing, well, then you don't actually care. That makes sense? Now, think about it. When I was financially illiterate when it came to business, and I winged my way through probably the first 5 or 6 years in business. And then I started to have some pretty major cash flow gaps, particularly at this time of the year. And that's because I didn't know what I didn't know. And because I was allowing it to continue, what I got was I just didn't care that I didn't know that I didn't know. So what I want you to take on board is, if you are having some challenges with your pricing, there's nothing wrong. And if you do some work with us, we're definitely never going to sit down and judge and, relate or rate you. We're going to have a look at it, totally get it. I get it. Yep. But you got to own it first. And in the age of information, choosing to stay ignorant is a choice. Remember that. Choosing to continue to not know and not care is a choice. Now, for some of you, when you look at your business financials, maybe you can relate. If you see this sheet and you have no idea what it's saying, well, I'm with you. I get it. Now, some of you who understand Arabic could interpret that. And understanding your business financials is a little bit like learning a new language. If you're not comfortable with it, you're not familiar with it, then it may look like this. A profit and loss, a balance sheet, a cash flow forecast may look like this. Yet staying in that ignorant space is a choice, and helping you with your financials is a step-by-step process where you can get clarity moving forward of what your numbers are saying and have confidence that you're pricing, and then you're going to have profitable jobs and cash in the bank. So a quick question for you. I'd love to hear, when was the last time you reviewed the cost to employ your team? And what I mean by that is, when you are paying someone $40 an hour, what is it actually costing the business? When you take into account public holidays, sick leave, carers leave, annual leave, downtime, wet days, job holdups, travel time, non-billable hours, meeting times, training. When you take and chunk all of that down, as you're not paying someone $40 an hour, the hard cost of the business is at least 1.3 to 1.4 multiplier around that. Yeah. So consider that. But if you don't know what it is specifically for your business, well, then that's a great step to think of. What are your operational costs, these overheads? When was the last time you sat down and knew exactly what you're, paying or investing every month? When did you last sit down and, compare suppliers? Maybe there's opportunities there. And when did you actually sit down and say, am I pricing my jobs effectively? And when was the last time you raised your prices? Okay, because if you haven't raised your prices in at least the last 6 months, okay, your business is diminishing its margins. Don't need to share, but you might want to quickly question and tell the whole truth to yourself. All right, quick check in here, Gargi. Love to hear. I'll take a little pause, have a cup of tea, a sip of my tea. But what are you finding valuable, guys? What's come up? What is there for you that instantly goes, I think I'm in the right place to learn a little bit more about my numbers as well. Yeah. So
Yeah.
1,000% I'm the same 5 years in and don't know. Hey, Casey, thank you so much for your honesty, mate. That you're not the only one, but at least you're actually owning it. And when you own it, you can change it. Yeah.
There's some great open comments here, John. It's been
Please
wonderful
share.
seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Bert said, feel guilty for charging to fix the problem rather than the time it took me. There's confusion around the value from Kyle. Kaylee shared, we often don't track the costs, so is something I'll be looking to do. So great to see some actions that we can all take
Mm,
away immediately. In case he's written, guilty of not charging for variations to private clients within reason.
yeah.
Just yeah,
Okay. Great. Thank you for sharing, Gagi. That's beautiful. And please, yeah, guys, keep tapping away as we go. All right, let's keep moving. So, as I said before, pricing is always a combination of science and art and psychology. Not all of your businesses are the same. Some of you got really simple models. Yeah. Basic materials, basic labor, not a lot of extras around that, and you can price accordingly. But some of you, particularly if you're in construction, where you're managing so many different types of materials. You may be managing and working with, a half a dozen contractors as well as your own team. It can get pretty complex. But again, as you know, when the more complex it is, the more chances are that things could blow out as we go. So, the sliding scale, you may have a very simple service and maintenance business. You might have a very complex, construction business like some of our clients that we have on there as well. So let's have a look. Understand the blocks very quickly. Step number one. Okay. Number one, this thing called fear. We can't actually see it, but it's a feeling. But if you have a fear of, well, if I price myself too high, I'm going to lose the work and I'm not going to win the work. Okay? And I'm concerned about the opinions of others. And maybe I'm concerned about charging too much. What if I charge too much? And what happens is you allow the fear to guide you versus acknowledging and going, yeah, I am fearful, and I'm going to respond to it as well. And underneath that fear are these beliefs that if you peel back the layers, maybe you have a belief that you're not worthy of charging that much. Some of you said beautifully with your honesty there before, is I feel guilty of charging for fixing it versus the time that I'm there. Maybe you're pretending that money isn't important. I'm not about the money, I'm about the service. Well, listen, I've had money and I haven't had money, but overall I prefer to have money. And money is important, not the most important things in our lives, but it gives us options. Yeah. As some of you said, I want to be able to pay my team more. I want to be able to invest in technology. I want to be able to, give to a charity. I want to be able to employ more people so I can have some time off. So these are the types of things that we can dig down in at another time. I wouldn't pay that much for someone to come and fix that. Again, that can be a block. I'm no good with numbers. Hey, listen, I'll just work harder. That's the key. Again, if you can relate to any of those, nothing wrong, but that could be standing in the way. So if you understand the blocks and you're prepared to own them, we can work through moving them as well. Secondly, at Pro Trade United, we are working with clients to be in the top 10%, not the bottom 10%. Someone's always got to be in the top 10%. Someone's going to be in the bottom 10%. Which one would you prefer? The top 10 or the bottom 10? Listen, you don't have to comment, but I know you'd prefer to be consistently charging in the top 10%, delivering a great value as well, because someone has to be the most expensive. And if there's one resource I'm going to recommend over and above doing some work with us, it's my good friend Andrew Griffith's book, Someone Has to Be the Most Expensive. Why not make it you? Download it, listen to it. You'll get so much from that. Again, particularly around challenging the beliefs that you have. Again, sometimes you go, well, I can't charge that much because I deliver a crappy job. Well, you've got to raise your standards internally. Remember, it's an internal game first. Okay. So, what I want to challenge you to do is look at how you can be in the top, maybe top 20 Top 10 could be a stretch, but if you're feeling uncomfortable with that right now, just pause and check in. All right, number 3. If it's all up here, you're going to forget. Now, some of you have done really well being an owner-led business or a people-led business where you've got all of the structures and the templates and the checklists in your head. Yeah. And that can serve you up to a certain extent. But there are going to be some things that you're going to forget along the way. So we're going to highly recommend you have some checklists in place, maybe some templates that you use to tick off so that A, you can gather all the information, scoping out the job and the customer effectively. Clarify all of the expectations that the customer has as well. So the biggest gaps, the biggest frustrations, more or less come from a misalignment of expectations and a breakdown in communication. And as a business owner or as a business leader, you may not have had that shared with you before you joined the journey, but you probably recognize what keeps you up at night is more or less breakdowns in communication expectations. Number 2, you've got to gather all of the project information. If you get a chance and it's a bigger project, obviously get out on site, walk the job site, get the detailed plans. What are the contractors required? What are the timeframes? What are the expectations? If you're into measurements and you need that as far as your job, again, make sure it's really clear. What are the current labor, material, and travel costs involved? And are you allowing for wastage? Again, when you've got this out of here and it's on a piece of paper, okay, much better and much more consistent with the way that you're going to price. This is one of our clients who are based in Sydney, the boys at Jogan Electrical. We've got John and Adam, family business. And one of the things that John was really, I won't say the word guilty, but I just did, admitted to was that working in the residential space for 30 years, he used to overservice his clients. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But someone else mentioned earlier that they used to go back and add variations, not charge for it, go out and do special little site visits here and there, on the charge for the work they were doing. And over time, John had been working 30 years in the business, yet really or rarely saw the profit that he felt he deserved. So what we helped them shift was their pricing model, how to explain the value. They've stepped into a commercial space now, so there's no residential on their site now. The EV space, the commercial space, the service and maintenance business, the pricing is on point. They're delivering great value to the customer. John, who's on the right-hand side there, is in his 60s. He's had more time off in the business in the last 18 months. He's been to Italy, he's been to the wineries down south. He's traveling consistently, but that's because he's had the profit in the business to be able to employ the right people to deliver great outcomes. Yeah, simple steps, just consistently applied. Number 4, as we go through, you've got to get so clear on all of the costs. How can you charge and make a margin if you're not clear on what it is actually going through your bank account? So you've got to have accurate reporting. You've got to know the cost to employ your team. You've got to be relatable to your operating expenses, the overheads. You've got to know how to accurately measure materials and labor. If you've got specialist equipment that you've actually bought, are you charging for that as well? Remember, if you had to go and do a job and you had to hire the equipment to come in and do the work, specialist equipment, then make sure you're charging for it as well. Are you allowing for downtime, overtime, maybe wastes involved again? A couple of these I've repeated. I think you're getting the sense that understanding, remember, ignorance is not a choice anymore. Well, it is a choice, but in the age of information, when you can get this data, it's really important to be able to be over it as well. Now, sometimes the best way to start is looking at some historical data. So let's have a look at some examples here. I'm going to pretend that this is a business that we're working with, and this is some of the historical data. So they had a total income for this period of time, sales income from jobs and projects of $1 million. Now, how much they spent on delivering the project was what we call our direct costs or costs of goods sold. And that's material, labor, contractors involved or subcontractors, equipment hire permits, everything specifically related to the individual job. which means they got a gross profit, or what was left, of 450,000, which was a 45% gross profit. Not good or bad at this point in time. They had $300,000 of overheads, the operating expenses such as insurances. These are the fixed costs of software, office, admin, non-billable employees, vehicles, etc., which left them with a net profit of 15%. Now you might go, that's pretty healthy. Well, it's not good or bad. It's just the example. So if we take historical data from the last 12 months and we then can apply it to how we're going to price accordingly. Now, if you look at the historical data and there's little or no net profit, well, then you've got to ask the question, what's missing? Where are the gaps? Yeah. So we can take that and then we can fine tune it and we can tweak it. So the fifth point here is you've got to know, firstly, what your break even margin is, which means you've got to know the number that you need to make to actually just exist as a business. My question to you is, do you know that number? If you don't, pay attention. So the calculation is taking two aspects. Number one, we've got to take in the historical data, the overheads. In the business that we had previously, we had $300,000 of operating expenses. Take the sales income, and that gives us our break-even margin. So in this business, if they're not charging and making at least 30% gross profit margin, then why bother? And that's what we call it. This is the why bother number. Why even bother showing up? Why even bother getting out of bed? Why even bother dealing with all the challenges as a business owner? So first and foremost, you've got to know exactly what your break-even number or break-even margin is. Yeah. Now, if you're not clear on that in your business, bit of homework to go out and do. Use the historical numbers in your business to give you that for today. Number 6, we then want to set our gross profit targets. And the gross profit is our what we call our real income. Sales income at the top, that's a vanity number. Our gross profit is what we call the real income, because that's what we're actually keeping after we've paid to deliver the work. So as I said, use the historical data as a starting point, not a steering point, a starting point. Work backwards from a 15%, and I'll show you how to do that, pre-tax profit. Add your operating expenses, calculate your GP required, and then price your work for the return on your GP. So let's have a look at how that could work. In the business that we used as an example, start here. Now, in this business, after paying wages, salaries for all of the employees, including the owner, the business wants to generate a pre-tax net profit of $150,000. They have the overheads, as we talked about, of $300,000, which meant they need to generate, after paying all of the costs of doing the work, $450,000. Now, that worked out. Historically, the data showed it was around 45% was what they were keeping. For every dollar that brought in, 45 cents was retained. The cogs there were about, historically, 550,000. Therefore, their sales income target was $1 million. But the key thing was to focus on what their gross profit percentage needed to be. Now, often we get asked at Pro Trade United, how much gross profit should I aim for? And because I said this, every business is slightly different. The first answer I always give is more than you have now. Let's work out what you're generating as far as a gross profit goes, and let's look at adding 1%, 2%, 5%, maybe 10% to it. However, as a bit of a benchmark, this is where our clients are working at the moment. If you're in the service and maintenance, plumbers, sparkies, refrigeration, and it's mainly the service and maintenance work you're doing, we're helping clients aim for greater than 55%. If you're doing some building, small projects, painting, for example, landscaping, in that space, bathroom renovations, bit of tiling, 35 to 45% is what we're seeing. And particularly construction and commercial work, even though it's challenging to get there, we're helping our clients get to a greater than 30%. Now, if you're doing a mix of these, here's the thing, because every business is different. If you're doing a mix of these, so you're doing a bit of service and maintenance, a bit of project work, your GP is going to be different and a blend. And this is why it's important you do the numbers for your business and your business alone, rather than working out what everybody else is doing as well. Step number 7, as part of all of this, is you've got to do what's called job costing or back costing, which it's a bit like, if you're a coach of a football team or a sporting team, once the game's played, I'm sure you would do a review. What worked, what didn't work, what we expected, what actually happened, and what can we do to respond next game? Yeah. Now, when's game day in business? Every day is a game day. Yeah. Every day is a game day. So let's have a look. We want to back cost every project or maybe a van. You've got to treat it like a game. What did you want? Estimated result versus actual result. And what's the difference? We've got to understand that the operating expenses and the efficiencies around the business can impact this as well. And have a third party, possibly like us, review your pricing to ensure that you're not getting too close to it. And we can objectively have a look at what's working and what's not working. So here's an example that I'd love to work with you on. So the first column is, this is how the job was priced: labor, materials, equipment, rubbish removal, came to a total of 55,500. The quoted price to the customer was 100,909, which gave the business a 45% gross profit margin, bang on for what it needs, based on the examples we've used before. Actually, what did it cost? Well, labor blew out a bit by 3,700. Materials blew out by 2,500. Equipment hire was the same, and rubbish removal, we needed an extra skip bin, and that blew out as well, which means the total difference was $6,400. Yeah, which, when we have a look at the numbers, was 6.4% under what we were after. Now, the question to you is, how many projects do you want to allow this to happen to before you realize? And this is why back costing is such a valuable component of being profit driven moving forward. It's almost like losing a football game, looking at the scoreboard, going, yeah, geez, we didn't play too well and we actually lost, but let's just show up next week and hope we do better. Versus, how are we going to improve? What are we going to change? And that's the key. So if you're not doing your back costing and reviewing, then again, you are missing out. So, Gargi, I might just stop my share there, bring you back on, and please, guys, share what's been valuable. What are you finding needs to be worked upon? What are you finding valuable? What are you finding, something that you can take back to the business and start working with straight away?
Can I ask, John?
Yeah.
How often do you think there should be a review on those costings that you were mentioning earlier?
Well, one of the things that's important is, it's a bit like the smaller the projects, okay, you could probably review them at the end. Like if the project takes 2 or 3 days, we'll review it at the end and change. But if you're working on a construction project that might take 6 months, 12 months, like some of our clients are, well, you don't want to get to the end of the 12 months to start reviewing. So I would say in those situations, you want to monitor it weekly, if not fortnightly at the least. Because, it's like, if this is where I want to get to and this is where I am, but I'm heading out here, well, how quickly do you want to know that you're actually off course? So as soon as you can. So a regular meeting rhythm and review is super important.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Thanks, John. We've got a few takeaways here already. Someone's written, stopped back costing. Bert wrote, stopped back costing about a year ago, but need to start again for sure. So it's a good reminder. Ian's written, the why bother number sounds good, especially knowing your limit at negotiation on commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good point. Joel's put in here, it's interesting to add the GP margin to the total quote, something I'm currently not doing. So, Joel, great to hear that you'll be actioning that.
Yeah, some great awareness. Excellent. So please
Yeah.
keep typing away. And again, if other people can read your comments, it's making them sort of go, you know what, if I can relate to that, I get it.
Mm.
Because you're not an island, you're not the only person who may be missing out on a few things as well. So
And do
beautiful.
you think
All right.
and do you think, John, this time of year is probably the best time to do the review now that we're leading into the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think now and at least every 3 months
Yeah, wonderful.
moving forward. Yeah, perfect. All right. So listen, what I'm going to do is one of the things that I want to do now, we'll do it at the end, guys, is want to give, the people on the call an opportunity to, I can just share my screen here. Um, yeah, understand a little bit more how we might be able to help them with their pricing, with their business as well. And we have a proven structured process at Pro Trade United. By the way, after this couple of slides, we're going to go back and wrap up. And I've got a couple of things to share with you, particularly around discounting. And for those of you who are interested in learning how to charge for quoting, I've got a little bit there for you as well. We have a structured process that allows people to go on the journey, and we're like Sherpas with our clients. We sit with you side by side, have a look at where you are, where you'd like to get to, and give you those specific recommendations. And one of the things we'd love to offer everyone here is if you haven't taken the advantage to have someone sit down with you objectively, third party, and ask you some questions that may be a little confronting, but very supportive in helping you gather direction and clarity on where you'd like to go. We'd love to help you with that as well. So we'd love to give you the opportunity to have what we call a business performance session. And what that looks like, and regardless of whether you're, far north Western Australia or down the bottom end of the South Island of New Zealand, we've got clients everywhere in between. What that looks like is catching up over this type of medium, asking some questions about what is it you'd really like to create in your business. Yeah. We've got a great little diagnostic tool, which has got some set questions that will give you a blueprint of what's really going on in your business. And then we can identify the key things to put in place and give you some specific recommendations. So if you'd like to take care of that, I'm just going to launch this. I've got a poll that's just come up on the screen there. If it's something you'd like to, fantastic. Just tick yes. If you're a little unsure and you'd love a couple more details, that's quite okay. We'll be in touch as well. If it's a no, that's totally cool as well. We've got a limited number of spaces for these over the couple of weeks ahead. We've had a pretty sort of quick start to the year with a few things. So I'm going to hold this up, and if you're still considering, I will give you another opportunity at the end as well, because I've got another little gift that I'd love to share. So I'll just keep this up for another 3 or 4 seconds. Beautiful. All right, I'm just going to end that there, Gagi. Done. All right, we're into the last little piece here. Some key points that I want you to take on is focus on your own numbers, not the bloke down the road. Oh, XYZ down the road's only charging X amount. Well, good on him. He may not have a business in 12 months' time, or maybe 3 months' time. He may have a lower level of service and quality. You don't know. He may have a lot lower overheads, yes, but again, he can't maintain that for too long. I want you to be profit focused, not volume focused. Hands up if you would prefer to do less work for the same profit. I think everybody would love to have their hands up yet. Maybe factor in a project management fee when necessarily. A lot of projects that you guys are running, you're actually offering this service free of charge. Yeah. But I would start putting a line item in, particularly larger projects, the fee to actually manage behind the scenes. So customers may resist, but you might say, well, would you like to manage the project? No, that's what we do. That's what we're experts at. You may want to consider a fixed margin on top of all variations. Again, some nuances. And sales, remember, selling is more about connection and communication. So educate and don't sell. Now, I want to talk about discounting, and this is a great little slide because some of you might go, well, I might just discount to get my foot in the door, to win the first project, to build my reputation. But let's have a look at the true cost of discounting in your business and why it kills and why it's a race to the bottom. Yeah. So here we go. What I want you to take on is if you have that business we've talked about before, the gross profit of 45%. Now you say, listen, okay, the customer comes back, says, can you shave the price off a little bit? And you go, okay, well, I'll take 10% off. Well, what this shows us is that to produce the same profit, the volume of work that you'll need to do with just a 10% reduction in the price you charge is 30% more. So nearly a third more work. Now, this is why, if you've ever experienced, I'm doing more work than I've ever done, I'm just not making the profit that I'd like to make. So possibly you might be best off sticking to your guns, learning how to educate, communicate, connect, add value, and deliver, do less work for the same margin. Snapshot. And listen, one of my favorite slides of all time. I love this, and because it's funny, but it's true. I've got a quick story to share, and I know we're close to time, but a friend of mine's an avid Collingwood supporter, and Collingwood won the AFL Premiership in 2023, and he went to Bali at the end of the year, and he got on the turfs with a mate, and he chose to go and get a magpie tattoo for the Collingwood Magpies on his calf. And I'm kidding you not, the magpie tattoo on his calf doesn't look much better than the dragon on that guy's back. It was, and I didn't ask the question about how much did it cost, but he's now got this dodgy looking blurred ink magpie on the back of his calf for as long as he chooses to keep it there. But again, someone will always undercut you. But don't be that person. Yeah. I'd love you to consider, if you are in the project space, to charge for pricing your work. Act as a consultant or act as a specialist. And one of the things that we've created for clients is our process that will take you through how to set your business up with the processes, the checklists required to be able to do that. And if that's something that you're interested in, okay, then we are going to give this away at the end of the session. So stay tuned. Maybe evaluate doing flat rate pricing versus doing charge or hourly rate. Now, there's pros and cons for both. And again, sitting down with you, we could support you around what may be best for you as well. Ben, who's one of our masters clients, he does specialty work, South Sydney, and he works with properties that are built on the side of the cliffs that overlook the ocean, south of Sydney, particularly around decks, stairs. And one of the things we work specifically with Ben on is helping him charge for pricing his work. He's a specialist. He's an expert. Very few people do what he does. So he gives a lot of advice and a lot of education. And he's created a great process. If you go to his website, you'll see what is our process. And he takes his customers on the journey and does an amazing job with it as well. But that's one of the things we specifically help Ben get his head around and support him with as well. One of the last slides, the 2x2x2 rule. Now, if you think of year 10 maths, and this was a piece of advice that was passed on to my daughter Georgie around her maths, and I thought, man, I need that just as much as anything. Now, most of you have heard of measure twice, cut once. Yeah. So this is the 2x2x2 rule. Check your project scope twice. Don't just take it for granted. Double check you've got all of the information. That's why those templates and checklists are so important. Price the job and double check it. Price it again with beginner's mind, and then back cost the project and do that twice just to make sure that you've covered everything there. Simple thing, takes time, but when you have a look at it, how much extra margin would you like to make because of it? And here's an example of how you could probably do an overview of checking your pricing. So last example, in this project, there was direct costs or cost of goods sold, which covered $89,345. The gross profit, this business, very similar to what we were looking at before, they wanted 45%. Now, I get that some things can be marked up or have a margin on more than others, particularly if you've got a variety of different materials and contractors and labor. So we're not getting into the nuances of that. However, this business wanted an overall gross profit. So how do we work out what the cost for the project to the customer needs to be? So we take the total costs and we divide it by 1 minus the GP percentage. So in this business, the total cost or the price for the customer was $162,445 and the 45 cents. Really important. And sometimes the more specific the number, the more real it actually appears to the customer. So if you're wanting to ever double check, it's a very simple way because your software might tell you one thing, but you want to make sure it's hitting your margins along the way. So to wrap up, Gargi, what I'd love to do with everyone who's been on the session today and also wants to be involved with possibly catching up with us and our team and getting access to some more of these templates and checklists. We're going to give everyone who's on the session a pricing for profit checklist and also how to get paid to quote. Now, that's not just for builders and people, but it could be if you're a residential painter and you're going out and doing some houses and residential repaints. It could be if you're a specialist in electricians and you're doing home data or some project work. Maybe you're a plumber and you're going out and quoting on hot water systems. Now, what are the ways that you can gradually start charging for your expertise to give you a more profit-based business rather than the old traditional ways, which is free quotes? Okay. Free. If you have those businesses, you ever see those signs on the, I've got them down the road here, a roofing paint, free quote. Okay, these businesses that are always giving free quotes don't last. Yeah? So keep that in mind. And again, as we talked about earlier, we have our structured process. And if you'd love to come on board and have a chat with one of our team, I'm just going to launch that poll again, Gargi, and just to wrap things up. And if anybody's got any question whilst I've got that there, please share what your experience has been today. This is the first of our sessions for the year. We're out to challenge the status quo with some of our topics, disrupt how our clients are showing up as business owners, help them have a point of difference, and not be in the sea of sameness as everyone else in their space as well. So what have we got coming up? Any questions there? I see Josh has got someone asked for a distance. I say what we can remove from the job, not a direct discount. Yeah. Hey, listen, and that's a great point there. Josh, possibly it's about, hey, listen, thanks so much for asking. So acknowledge, the question. Thanks so much for asking. One of the things we have in place, we're not about discounting the quality of what we're doing. Yeah. And just distracted there from the set, guys. But not in the habit of discounting the quality of our workmanship or the products that we are utilising. But if we have a look at what are the products we're working with, and you'd like a more economical option, then we can explore what that is as well. Again, but that's going to be the choice of the customer, remember? And remind them, sometimes the poor person pays twice. Yeah. All right. Lovely. I see that Daniel's just run a P&L and currently sitting at 53% GP. And again, depending on what your business is. Bert's got, I'm already one of the more expensive painters. My GP is only 15%. How can I realistically up this to 40% suddenly? Well, mate, if you're only 15%, maybe there's some measurements out. Maybe that's a net profit, not a gross profit. Yeah. So again, without having a look at what those numbers are, you might be on point with a 15% net profit, which is different to your gross profit as well. Chris has got, work as well. Focus on what works well is just as much as also about what you can improve on as well. Remember, what works, keep it going. Keep doing, stop doing, start doing. Some of the things there as well. All righty. Gagi, anything else you'd love to share or that's come up?
No, there's been some great conversations in the chat. Shared a few screenshots, John, of some of the formulas that you've shared there as well. And just wanted to
Beautiful.
mention to everyone that, yes, we'll be sending out to those that have joined us those 2 resources John mentioned as well. So you'll get a copy of those resources sent to you as well. So looking forward to allowing everyone to get some value, some tangible value from today's session, in addition to what they've already gained from your connection, John, your presentation.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's been great.
beautiful. It's interesting. One of the things around content, and Gagi, and for everyone else as well, there's an abundance of information on the
Oh,
internet now.
heaps.
You Google what you want and you can get it. So we're not precious
Yeah,
about our
no,
information. We'd much rather give it away. But what we do know is the key is implementation, because you can have a bunch of all of these resources sitting in your inbox or on your desktop. And if you're not doing anything with them, well, then, it looks impressive, but doesn't serve you. So we'd love to be side by side with you, helping you implement, get those profit margins where they need to be and consistently have that income and cash in your bank. So, guys, thank you for joining us. We look forward to meeting you in person or online at some stage again in 2025. Thank you, Gagi, for being my co-pilot for the session,
easy.
and to
Happy
everybody
to.
else. And enjoy the rest of your evening wherever you are. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.